One, we're live.
Hi everyone, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from today. Hope you've enjoyed the panels at Fintech Connect so far. It's heard some really great insights. So if you're ready for this next one in the blockchain track. So my name's Olivia Minnock and I'm editor of Fintech Alliance, which is a government-backed digital ecosystem here in the UK, bringing together fintechs, banks, and anyone else in the space that wants to collaborate. Cryptocurrencies are taking the world by storm, but they are a complex beast and many individuals and businesses alike are still quite unsure about them. Some people see them as part of a wild west, and crypto assets have really yet to fulfill their huge potential for that reason. So in this panel, we'll be discussing, can crypto and banks get along? There's a huge interest in the crypto space and the potential for a lot of profitability, but banks are quite rightly being cautious when it comes to aspects, including security and regulation. At Fintech Alliance, we often talk about how banks can innovate, whether that's internally or partnering with fintechs. And there are, of course, many considerations around what realistic timelines look like, security, and whether regulation is really a massively important barrier, or it's just a bit of an excuse like the I just got out of a serious relationship of banking. So really excited to open up this discussion today. Delighted to be joined by Mohamad Zaraket, who is Director of the Digital Assets Unit at BNY Mellon, Laurent Marochini, who is Head of Innovation at Societe Securities Services, and Robin Green, who is Executive Director, Capital Markets at CIBC. Unfortunately, Sheila from the World Economic Forum is unwell today, so she won't be able to join us, but I hope that we'll still try our best to have a really fruitful and interesting discussion. Before we get started, please do remember to send your questions in for any or all of the panelists, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can too. But that's enough from me. On to the people you actually came here to hear from. So first of all, I'd like to ask the panelists to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your role, and I suppose what crypto really means to you, because it's a bit of a buzzword and everyone has their own view on that. So Laurent, shall we start with you just because you're at the top of my screen?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy to be here today with you. So I'm Laurent Marochini. I'm Head of Innovation for Societe Generale Securities Services in Luxembourg. I'm also President of a different association for blockchain and crypto in Luxembourg for the fund industry, for the banking industry. And finally, I'm also a co-leader of the blockchain and crypto community of Societe Generale Group. So yes, crypto is here to stay. I would say that our main clients, institutional investors, bank, and insurance. I saw a survey last week. It was that 90% of institutional investors plan to invest in digital assets in the next 5 years. So thanks to the arrival of institutional investors, corporate, or even countries, we have seen that countries, they are entering in the crypto space. I believe that we have no choice because our clients are going to the new asset class, and we have no choice to deal with crypto to stay at the forefront of the innovation, because we need to accompany our clients. So yes, we strongly believe that there is a place for the financial industry with crypto, and happy to discuss with the panelists about this topic.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome. Mohamad, how about yourself? What's your role involved and why is crypto important to you?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Olivia, and good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are joining, everyone. So as you rightly mentioned, my name is Mohamad Zaraket. I work in the digital asset unit, which our bank, BNY Mellon, established earlier in the year. And really the aim to look at digital assets across board and then really push forward our strategy where it makes sense based on our client demands and the need in the market. And of course, to Laurent's point, we think about crypto as a new digital, as an asset class, actually, or digital asset. We're really looking at it as a digital asset class, or a new class that is coming out, but that spans really multiple areas. And for me, when I think about it, is one side there is cryptocurrencies, so the like of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which everybody probably speak about because of the media, the hype, etc. And those are, just to ground everybody with those, are really just virtual currencies, if you want to call them, not backed by any asset, but at the core of that, they are just recorded on decentralized blockchain. So that's kind of how we think about one part of those digital assets. There's another part of digital assets, which is the digitized cash. So notably things like stable coins and central bank digital currencies. And those could be offered and issued by private entity or a public entity. And a third bucket, if I want to call it, and I like to think about things in buckets, that will be the tokenization piece, and which is basically just a digital representation of assets, whether it's a digitally native asset or physically native asset. And that's for a lot of benefits. I mean, we'll come more later for them, I assume, for demand, what it means to us and how the benefits of all of these, but there are a lot of derivers that I'll happy to shed more light on afterward.
Thank you, Mohamad. And you're quite right to mention the kind of different ways crypto is perceived and the different kinds of crypto assets as well, because like you say, most people have heard of things like Bitcoin, but they may not be aware of other sides of it. So looking forward to exploring that further. Finally, Robin, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how crypto impacts your role?
Hi guys, yeah, and it's great to be here. So yeah, Robin Green, I'm based out of the UK, working for CIBC within sort of digital markets. And I think, we've been doing a lot of work. And before I go any further, these thoughts, what I'm going to be talking about really are my own personal views, not those of my employer, just to make that clear. But someone who's worked in the industry for a good few years now. I think, up to but quite recently, tokenization really has been the thing. And be that tokenization of cash, be that the tokenization of assets and other, other instruments within capital markets has really been the focus. And it's really interesting now to see how the crypto world is really going mainstream. And I agree. From a personal point of view, the banking industry now needs to start to pay attention and to start to recognize the benefits and the opportunities that are available in that space for the banking industry. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting panel conversation, I think, just to talk through some of these issues. Thanks,
Robin, and welcome to the panel. And I think you're quite right in saying it's looking to go mainstream, and I think a lot of this panel will be about what needs to happen in order for crypto to really go mainstream. Financial institutions are being asked by their clients to offer them exposure to things like cryptocurrencies. So the demand is certainly there. And Laurent, you kind of mentioned that as well, that you're seeing customers are really voting for this and kind of wanting to take an interest in it. Could you tell us a bit more about what demand you're seeing at SocGen for crypto assets?
Yes, so we have received a lot of demand during the year 2016-17 during the ICO, but it was too early. But we see a growing interest since 2 years, and I will give you 3 examples of demand. The first one, we see a rise of crypto funds with a full exposition in Bitcoin, Ether, and I would say the top 10 of cryptocurrency. So a full alternative investment fund, for example, because UCITS did not allow to do investment in crypto and having exposition in this field. So I would say first category is a pure exposition in the crypto with the top 10 crypto due to the liquidity, of course. Secondly, we have some requests from venture capitalists that want to enter in the space of blockchain and crypto. So it's like a private equity. So they will invest in companies that have exposition in crypto, so traditional private equity, with an exposition directly in digital assets like Bitcoin, Ether, in the decentralized finance. So this is a second category. But as you know, in the private equity, there is a lot of cash, and we have more and more venture capitalists in the world of blockchain and crypto. And finally, we have the traditional private equity fund that will do a traditional investment in private equity, but they want to have now an exposition of 5 to 10% in digital assets. So I will summarize in the 3 main categories in terms of crypto for our clients. And by the way, it's not the purpose of this panel, but we have also some requests from our clients to work on tokenization of financial assets. It can be tokenization of bonds, and we have a subsidiary in charge of the tokenization of the financial assets, tokenization of investment funds. So yes, we have the security leg, I would say, where our clients are very active.
Certainly. And Mohamad, does that kind of mirror things that you've seen in the market? Do you think people are, as you mentioned, moving from just the cryptocurrency side to the wider digital assets?
Yeah, so I think there are two legs to that. Of course, there's what you see mostly in front of the demand coming from retail. In our case, we're more focused on institutions, so I'm gonna speak a bit more about that. But even from institutions, and to Laurent's point, for us, when I look at what institutions are asking for, really initially and not surprisingly, the most demand is coming for crypto itself. And there are a couple of drivers there, but if I'm going to call a few out, would be some are asking for those because they want something to hedge their inflation, because they're looking at the market and looking at all what's happening and say, okay, can I have something, if at all, eventually proven that, you know, crypto is inflation hedge. For the moment, at least this is one of the thinking and thoughts we're hearing. There's the other piece to Laurent's point is really some clients want just an exposure to a new asset class to ensure there's a diversification in their portfolio, because eventually they want to have a diversified portfolio as wide as possible. And this is really the crypto piece. Then we're also seeing a heightened demand, I'd say, and I think this is more around started to increase, and that's around tokenization side of things. Laurent just touched base on that. So maybe what I'd say on the side of that, the reason probably we're seeing this demand is really more because of the benefits that tokenization might bring, whether it's operational efficiencies, liquidity, transparency, even cost reduction. There are just so many benefits, and this could go across different areas across board, whether that's a digitally native asset, a financial asset, a physical asset. So that can span across different areas. Anyways, like, so to this point, these are like probably two areas of interest that we're seeing. There are many more others, but you know, I'll pause in here. I'm sure Robin probably could add a few more, and in addition to what Laurent said.
Certainly. Robin, what are the key areas of interest that you're seeing among your clients and those you work with?
Well, again, just talking sort of more generically from the sort of banking world perspective, I think, you know, it's probably where I'd like to stay on this this panel, if that's okay. Yeah, I'm seeing, you know, the sort of the legitimization of crypto as a thing that can be held by reputable institutions. It starts to imply that the banks that serve those institutions also need to be more comfortable just performing basic transactions, you know, buying assets on behalf of their customers, or allowing their customers using their existing banking channels to actually purchase crypto assets, to store those assets through some custody, and then to convert them back into fiat. So again, this is an observation on the sort of banking industry, that I think the banking industry needs to get more comfortable. And we'll probably go on to talk about, you know, some of the concerns that, again, the banking industry has around doing that. But you know, I think that would be the first step, to start to get comfortable just offering, you know, the buy, hold, sell kind of functionality to their clients.
And Robin, I suppose I'm gonna stay with you for the next question around when we've seen innovations happen, especially in terms of fintech. We've seen kind of challenges crop up and do certain things in a space, and then banks have to kind of make sure they're transforming their operations to serve the clients the same way the challenges are. Is there anything you've seen that's interested you in the crypto space, that challenges have come and started doing really well, and how do you think that will impact the larger banks?
So I think I'm not sure that challenges. I'll also answer a slightly different question around, you know, banks are regulated for a very good reason, and the regulation requires standards for very good reason, and there are standards around KYC, AML, provenance of funds, and those areas, and it's essential for the reputation of the banking industry and the stability of the banking infrastructure that we, you know, continue to observe fully those regulations. And I think the thing that we need to continue to work on as an industry is how to apply that oversight, that governance, those controls into a very new asset class. I think calling crypto an asset class is probably the right thing to do. It's only really been, well, it depends who you ask, but you could argue it's been mainstream for 2-3 years, and most people actually running the firms themselves that aren't banks have been in the industry for that long as well. So it's really the banks getting controls and process in place to allow them to interact in a very new industry. So I think that's something that the industry needs to get comfortable to do. I hope that sort of answers your question.
Definitely. I think you're right to mention the challenges that you know, a lot of us from the client's perspective are probably saying, well, why can't we just do this within the next few weeks or months? And there's a lot to be done there. Laurent, from your point of view, what sort of problems do you see fintech, do you see crypto beginning to solve if we can kind of put those aspects in place?
Yeah, so I fully agree with Robin. So we are regulated, we have reports to do, we have a lot of things to do. But regarding the new challengers, I see some interesting space where I believe we will partner in the future is, for example, the digital custody. So I'm really convinced that building something when you have a legacy system and when you are regulated, it's not something easy. So it's definitely a very interesting topic. And when we see the recent valuation of the digital custody, we see that there is indeed a very interesting topic. For example, I saw that Gemini, they have a valuation of 7 billion. Fireblocks, it's 4 or 5 billion. So we see a clear space for the digital custody. And I believe that taking into account the time to market, because if you need to build something, it will take time. Taking into account that it requires specific knowledge to build such capacity, I strongly believe that there is a place for newcomers, so a place for collaboration between new challengers and financial institutions. So it's an example of collaboration. And for investment opportunities, yes, we are regulated. If you just take the example of Basel III supervision, if we invest 1,000 in Bitcoin, we need to put 1,000 euro in our balance sheet. So yes, definitely, I strongly believe to the digital custody as a new space for challengers.
Okay. And Mohamad, from your point of view, what are some kind of interesting problems, or the most interesting problem you think crypto can begin to solve if it can be adopted in the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, Laurent and Robin has already touched on a few things, and we're there as a bank for already offering few things in terms of solutions, or starting to offer, and will bring other offers as we come forward. And those are, of course, the custody piece, which we announced, and the fund services piece, which already live. We have it. But to your point, what are some of these interesting problems you're saying crypto is starting to solve? And for us, when we look at this, there's a lot of interest out there in crypto as an investment vehicle. But personally, as I mentioned earlier, I am mostly excited about the tokenization piece. And for those, and I did mention at a high level earlier, tokenization really just digital representation of physical or digital native assets on blockchain that allow for ownership. But in terms why is this exciting, this is really more about the benefits tokenization brings. And let me call a few benefits out there in terms of what crypto solve in here and what tokenization does. So one piece is really tokenization, for instance, enables things like streamlining IT systems, infrastructure sharing, as well as bring operational efficiencies. So this is one area I look at, and even cost reduction. There is also things like asset fractionalization, which means literally fractionalizing an ownership that eventually allow accessibility to that particular asset and then as such allowing more people to own it, which means bringing more money into the space. And ultimately, it's really about liquidity for that particular piece. And the very last one, in terms of some of the benefits I'm calling out here, is really transparency. And simply because the records are transparent, the fact they are on the blockchain means all those participants who are accessing that network can see what is happening, and as such bring that piece. So the examples literally around tokenization are almost unlimited in terms of what can you tokenize. This is really why I'm actually very excited, specifically personally, about this particular class or this particular piece of crypto, because literally, as I'm saying, the examples are just unlimited. So you can, for example, tokenize real estate, to financial securities, to even a photo, as you've been hearing recently, and tweets, and etc. With the recent surge of NFTs and all this in a new forum. So this is one area which I think crypto is or tokenization is one of the areas that I think really exciting, and crypto is solving for at the moment. And this is just the start of what we're seeing right there.
Thank you, Mohamad. And Laurent, we've just heard the potential there from just one area in terms of tokenization, with the impact it can make. We've also heard there's huge demand from clients, but what are some of the key challenges that banks are facing when it comes to offering this as an option for their clients?
So yes, I was in mute. So yeah, when it comes to blockchain and crypto, you have to deal definitely with the new business model. And we all have in mind what was happening with Kodak. It was 30 years ago. So the first thing is to have a strategic alignment in the organization. This is, I remember there was a panel, it was 1 or 2 hours ago. It is a famous why. And we already, we need to take, in our organization, we need to take into account the legacy system. It's very important. After the why, we have the how, and we need to have the entrepreneur spirit, because when it comes also to crypto and blockchain, you have to deal with the famous innovation dilemma, where you need to take a decision of something that will happen, but you don't know when. You are not able to measure the return on investment, because traditionally we measure the return on investment in the financial industry and everywhere in different industry, but we have to take the decision and to make a bet in the future. If you do nothing, you know that probably in 4 or 5 years you will disappear. But if you are the first, sometimes it's too early. So you just need to find the balance. So you need to have the strategic alignment to have in your roadmap something, to have the people to do that. So at the top level and also in the different stages of the industry, and to do things happen. And what is very important also is a risk assessment approach, and to be compliant, to be compliant also with the different things. So this is what we believe in.
I think that's a really good point. I heard from someone recently that their organization is beginning to look at the risk of doing nothing and not getting involved more so than the risk of actually something going wrong if they do. Is that something you resonate with, Laurent?
Yeah, definitely. This is a very, very important topic, but by the way, it should be embedded in the spirit of the organization, also to take the appropriate action in terms of strategy.
Certainly. Robin, from your experience throughout your time in the sector, I suppose, what are going to be the biggest challenges that banks will face when it comes to this adoption, especially, I suppose, in terms of maintaining trust with the businesses they work with? Yeah,
well, I suppose calling it sort of cryptocurrency, it's a currency. So there are regulations already around trading currencies in the banking sector, and at the very least, we just need to ensure that we're able to comply with those as we do with knowing counterparties, knowing where the funds have come from, knowing where the funds are going, and so it's just ensuring that as a banking industry, we're able to map the existing controls onto this new asset class. And I think that's definitely work in progress. And there's it's a fast moving and changing landscape. But I think there needs to be probably a bit more certainty around that before banks can more broadly get involved in this as a sort of mainstream activity, rather than toe in the water tests here and there, which are useful but aren't necessarily sort of scalable.
Definitely. It sounds like there's a lot of challenges around, like you say, that uncertainty and waiting to see what will happen in terms of the new regulation we brought in, whether other businesses will start to do things in that space. And Laurent's mentioned being in the right mindset as well, which I think is a really interesting point. Mohamad, from your point of view, is there any kind of mindset shift that needs to happen within these organizations to help them take advantage of what's going on right now?
Yeah, I think the mindset point is very good question. I guess for us, just like with any other innovation, and being one of the oldest banks, well, the oldest bank in the United States, I'd say, we've been innovating over all these many years. We've been there for more than 200 years. So the story when it comes to digital assets is really, the way we view it, is evolutionary rather than revolutionary. So that's like really how we look at it ourselves. Of course, the last few years there has been there's a big shift that is taking place and happening in the market. So, and there's a lot of focus on innovation and the digital agenda. And as such, we've been very clear and focused more on bringing this, what is called best-in-class experience, etc., and to ensure that we're meeting clients' demand. But maybe I'll share with you a few things we do, and maybe other minor things maybe for others which we need to consider. So for us, when we look at this or building any other innovative products, so that's internally, we first really look at taking a client-centric approach. So that is really to ensure whatever we're building is actually something our clients want and need, and fulfill that needs. So eventually when we offer it, they actually come and consume it, instead of having and build and offer something that clients don't want. So that's really one place. The other piece is really about being open to the ecosystem and work with others, so to ensure when there's a gap or if there's an offer we want to accelerate, we're really leveraging these latest technologies that are available and coming out, and we're actually, whether it's partnering, investing, building, whatever the piece, really leveraging what's out there, so to help us fill a gap or otherwise accelerate an offer we want to bring forward. And I think also internally, and this is something I've been seeing from my previous hat as leading innovation for in the bank for one of our innovation center here in Brussels and for the region, really having agile teams matter, but importantly, bring cross-functional teams to sit together, work together, have people that have already in the past, as well as part of the mix who drove innovation, build products there, and bringing everybody as you build that product. So you don't have the hurdles, you're breaking things from the beginning, you're actually moving fast, and then laser focus on execution. So eventually you deliver instead of just being stuck on a lot of prototyping. So these are a couple of areas that I think whenever we're looking at few things, one way of approaching it is really the mindset is important, but also the resources around how you execute, and that is equally important.
I think that's a really delicate balance for any organization, isn't it? The culture of innovation and trying new things, but also always keeping the client's best interest and regulatory compliance and security in mind as well. Laurent, how are you striking that balance at SocGen at the moment?
Yeah, so just to say that I fully agree with Mohamad. It's all about culture, it's all about mindset, and it's all about client centricity. And it is the case, of course, for the crypto, but it is of course the case for all the digital solutions that we can offer to our clients. So we always start with the client request, we work with the client, we co-create with the client, and we need to have talents in all stages of the organization. And as Mohamad said, in the execution, but also in terms of strategy. So we just need to balance between the strategy and the execution. Also, what we have done, so we always start with the client request, but sometimes we just want to create and test some product in the market. And this is what we have done in Societe Generale in 2018. We have launched an entrepreneurship program. We just asked to our employees, so we are 133,000 employees in Societe Generale. We asked to all the employees, come with an ID, a disruptive ID. You have 6 months to launch a product with a client. After, we will see. So it has been done in 2018. We have had about 60 or 70 internal startups in Societe Generale, and at the end of the 6 months, we have selected 10 startups. And we have, for example, I will take, because we are talking about tokenization, I will take the example of Societe Generale Forge. It was an internal startup in 2018, and now we have made 6 big achievements in tokenization, and it is a subsidiary of Societe Generale. So we take normally the approach of the client, and sometimes we just push a product in the market. After, yes, we will find the client and try something new.
I think that's such a really interesting point around, like you say, building an internal startup. And this is something I hear coming up again and again when we talk about any kind of innovation within banks. You know, do you partner with a technology company? Do you have some kind of accelerator or incubator in your organization? How does that then actually work by the time it gets to the right stage? Or do you acquire someone? So, Robin, what's the answer?
So, I mean, I've focused on regulation, and that's probably because it's the most important thing, or controls, compliance, and all those pieces. But putting that to one side now, and let's say that that's all done. And we're talking crypto, so currencies. So banks are great. We have a lot of people who are well versed and experienced in capital markets and currencies and all the products and structures that go around those in the traditional form. So we have banks generally have a huge wealth of experience in the kinds of services that can be offered to clients in relation to currency. And then if you start to think of cryptocurrency as being just another currency, you can start to map the services that are offered in traditional fiat currency into crypto. And it's interesting, if you look into what is DeFi, you've got people starting up with no understanding of capital markets, inventing things like swaps and everything else, but probably not quite as advanced actually as are offered through capital markets. And so I'd say a really interesting route to start to explore as a bank is get the front office understanding what crypto is, what it can do. And then all of a sudden you start to hear a whole string of acronyms and terminology, which, as someone who isn't a professional currency trader or, equities trader, whatever else in capital markets, they get the benefits and the products that can now be offered to customers through these new channels. So putting all the controls to one side, I would say how you take advantage. Well, make sure that the guys inside and the girls inside the organization fully understand what crypto is, and then start to offer. There's an observation on the banking industry.
I think that's really true, is to embed it throughout the organization and not just have something on one side where people are coming up with ideas and then it enters into the bank as a whole and it doesn't work for various reasons. Mohamad, how do you think banks can achieve that by kind of involving the compliance team, the tech team, and make it all work together?
Yeah, I think when I look at this question and just packaging it all together, which you just asked Ruben as well, like whether we should look at partnering, whether we should look at incubating, whether we should look at acquiring, all those, and then internally what we do. I think it's really leveraging too, and it depends on a case-by-case basis. So as a bank, we look at it across the board and really depend on the goal. So number one, we might look at things and we decide to build things internally. And that is okay. There is a piece which is basically where we feel maybe there's a gap that is need to be fulfilled, or something, a technology out there that was worth going after and partner, work with them, leverage that, whatever we might decide, just to actually do that. and then even go as far as taking a stake or even acquire them, just like what we did recently with Milestone Group, or an investment we did in Fireblocks. So now we're talking about crypto. And then, of course, there is a piece which is about beyond just building and partnering, really just here and there, go after someone which is will help you in whatever capacity, like almost like a vendor relationship. So that's really almost the minimum. Now this is one piece for us. How we do it, and I'll bring the other aspect of your question. We have actually a dedicated team that looks at scanning the whole market. And they are partnership team who will help us actually navigate all that. So they are literally speaking with every single crypto company out there or fintech that exists to help us eventually, when we have a problem to do that. That's one. Two, we have also the internal experts who understand these things, and we bring them all on a table along with other colleagues who are from risk, compliance, etc., to really, as we build that product from the beginning, they understand what we're doing, what we're working on, and if there are any things, control, risk, etc., are actually factored at the beginning, so there are no delays and we really move at pace. So really ensuring that point around agile from one side, but also education sessions from the other side, and the fact that we incorporate everybody, whether they are external player and internal players, give us that sauce that will help us, or secret sauce that will help us to move at pace and eventually deliver those products that needs to be delivered. And regardless what is whether we do it all internally or otherwise partnering, because eventually at times you really don't need to reinvent the wheel when there's a technology out there that exists, can help you fulfill what you need to fulfill.
Laurent, I can see that you're agreeing with a lot of what Mohamad is saying there, and be interested to know from you what the experience has been like, and also any kind of common sticking points you find it within that process and what you've done to resolve them.
Yeah, so I fully agree with what Mohamad just said. This will depend, and we have a lot of criteria. It's the famous build, buy, partner, or doing nothing at the end. And I strongly believe that we just need to start with a business problem. So we need to work with the business problem, and we need to work with the client demand. We know where we are good at and where we can build something. For example, we have a digitalization platform in Societe Generale. The name is SG Market. So I know if you have a big data project, we can find easily some people in Societe Generale. And we have 330 use cases in production in Societe Generale in artificial intelligence and data, thanks to the external people, but mainly thanks to the data scientists of Societe Generale. So I know where I can build something. I know where I need to partner or to buy something. It's depending also about the strategic priority, the time to market. For example, as I said, for digital custody, if we need to have a very quick time to market, we know that building something, it will take time. So probably we need to look to an acquisition. We need to look to a partnering. After, it will depend if it is minority, majority, and so on. So it's the same for all type of product. So yes, definitely, I fully agree. One size does not fit all, and it's a case by case, depending on the time to market, strategy of the business, and after we need to look at the different possibilities. But doing nothing is not a good idea.
We forget doing nothing's an option. It is, but possibly not the right one. That's really interesting. Something that just came to my mind as you were all speaking there around what you've done in various organizations is around talent and skills that I don't think we've really touched on properly yet. And I think, you know, I'm talking to everyone at the moment about how hard it is to hire and retain top talent. And I just want to put this out to all of you. What's your experience there, especially when you're innovating something that's quite new? And, you know, 20 years ago, no one was in school studying this. So does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Happy to to share a few things that we're doing, and I'm sure Laurent and Robin has more to add there. So, I mean, again, like to Robin's point earlier, we've been doing, I mean, as a bank, we've been working in general across all different products, regardless what it is. And as a bank who's been in the space for long, we've been innovating all over years to ensure that we remain current and we move forward. And this is also no difference. Now, of course, with just like any innovation, there might be a bit more challenges when there are shortage of talent, specifically to understand a specific areas. But that doesn't mean you want to get it all from outside. So what we do is certainly we go outside and we're hiring a lot of talent. So I have a lot of my colleagues are new to the firm who actually have the domain expertise, know and understand the space, etc. So we can leverage their experience. But also we hire internally from the bank, from moving people from within areas who understand the business, who understand the client needs, because we want to ensure as we build a product that one, those who understand how things work, as in terms of domain, are bringing this new expertise, but importantly, that product needs to solve the problems that we want to solve for our clients. So we want the teams who understand the clients, but also our internal systems, processes, other things that exist. So really a mix of the two is a natural balance that we try to strike as we move in this space. Yes, everybody is hunting for the same short pool of talent, but then we need to be innovative. Some of the at times you just need to see those who have some skills and try to help take maybe a bit of on a lead phase on them to educate, train them a bit if there's just an area of domain that they are missing expertise, and that's also okay. And we are all learning. So I don't think there's somebody who knows it all. So we're literally all learning. Even those who claim they are experts, they are still learning. Otherwise, they are not in this space anymore.
Definitely. I mean, Robin, you've already mentioned kind of making sure everyone in the organization or a wide range of people kind of understand this asset class. Is there anything in particular you would recommend for organizations to do to ensure that kind of upskilling and that everyone keeps up to date with things like that?
I think as an organization, again, just speaking sort of more broadly within sort of banking, I think you have to give the organization and people within the organization who have an interest in a certain area the opportunity to sort of put their hand up and give opportunities to go deeper into there. I mean, this specifically around cryptocurrency, it's not an old profession. It's a few years old. So there probably are a few people who are absolute experts, and they're retired on an island somewhere because they've probably been holding Bitcoin since it was $1. But for the rest of us in this area, there is benefit, as I've said before, around getting. As a bank, we're looking to offer financial services, so that's a skill, and then we're looking to map those financial services into sort of the crypto world or tokenize. And I actually, I think it is worth calling that out. The connotations around crypto maybe are sort of Bitcoin, but when you start looking at sort of more vigorously tokenized forms of cash, the finality system, potentially some of the stable coins of the USDCs of the world, maybe those are the ones that are going to have that sort of slightly more levels of sort of stability. There are people who you could train internally, and I would think that would be a good approach to start to give people who have an interest in this area, give them the ability to grow and stretch. And actually, no one has done a lot of these things we're talking about at all, so that there aren't experts. So let's get the people with the interest in learning to learn and deliver them.
I think that's a brilliant point. Yeah, Laurent, what does that look like for you in terms of that upskilling side?
Yeah, same for us. So what we do, so we have a community of blockchain and crypto in Societe Generale. We have more than 100 people in our community covering all the countries from China to US. And it's very important because we have a digital currency in China, which is going very, very fast. And we have a lot of interesting initiative in US. So in Europe, we cover all the countries, business unit and service unit. We do a lot of internal conferences. I will do it tomorrow, an all staff dedicated to tokenization in Luxembourg, for example. But yeah, we do a lot of internal event to explain what will be the future in 5 years, what is the tokenization. We come with use cases and we involve people at the beginning of the process in all the different areas. For example, I'm working for a digital and blockchain project, and today I'm involving a maximum of people because it is a possibility to also to involve people, to raise the awareness, and it's a learning by doing.
We've had a question come in around how supportive the regulator is, and that's quite a difficult question to ask, I suppose, because it depends where you are and what regulator you're talking about. But Laurent, I maybe wanted to get your perspective on more on the side of how do you see the industry and regulators working together? Is there anything you would like to see in terms of making sure that regulation is conducive to innovation, but also looks after the client's best interests as well?
Yeah, if you are talking about crypto, yeah, there was an announcement in Luxembourg regarding the CSSF, so with the Luxembourgish regulator, that explaining that we are able now to invest in crypto in the fund industry, depending on the type of product. It has been done in Germany, it has been done in France, it has been done in Switzerland. So I believe that regulation is going quite fast. They are very open to the topic of the crypto. Now we are waiting for the MiCA regulation, for the regime pilot, and there was also an announcement that as of September of next year, so next year is tomorrow, we will be able to do the secondary market of a tokenized product with a maximum amount. But anyway, regulation is moving quite fast, and I do not believe it's the hurdle is just a question of synchronization between the different countries, between US, because we can do something in Europe, not in US, we can do something in US, not in Europe. So for me, it's more a worldwide synchronization of regulation. But in Europe, yes, it has taken time, but they are quite optimistic and they move forward.
So thank you. And finally, we only have a few minutes left, and I just want to come back to the title of the panel, can crypto and banks get along? And I'd like to offer each panelist the opportunity, as we're coming to the close of this year, to make a wish for 2022 for the new year. So I'm going to ask each of you, do you have something you would really like to see over the next year that can help to make crypto more mainstream and help banks to take advantage of it? So Mohamad, are you happy to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, looking at this space, for us, what we're trying to do first, like to actually bridging what so-called traditional asset with digital native assets. So I like to look at the future and think about it a bit differently. And really at one point to arrive to a place where we stop thinking about those as a traditional and digital, but actually all of us to think about everything eventually going to be digital assets and everything, because I think everything eventually going to be tokenized. And this is just me thinking about the future, simply because how I see innovation is going. So it eventually will be just assets that are, digital native in nature. Everything in this world, and maybe I'm maybe thinking too much ahead of the future, not just for next year, is that eventually all are, operating under that umbrella of digitized assets that can be found, transparent, everybody can know the ownership of it, et cetera, really almost a blockchain-driven assets. And the way, even though I'm calling for the future, at the end, just like with every single innovation, things initially move slowly, but then it happens suddenly. And I don't think this is different. And
Robin, what would be your wish for the coming year, what you'd like to see?
Yeah, that was really interesting, actually, what Mohamad just said around these are all assets, and for them to be treated the same, I think would be a really great, if not next year, in years to come, and to allow banks to basically not differentiate internally between is that a tokenized form of a equity or a bond or a currency or not. It shouldn't matter. So I think actually what's required is the regulation and the standards and the controls need to catch up with what is going on to ensure that we continue to have the stability and certainty in the industry. And I think once that starts to happen, then exactly we can start to treat these things, not one or the other, but they are a service that gets offered to the customer. And some may prefer a tokenized form of an asset, and some may prefer the sort of the more traditional form. And that would be a really good place to get to.
Certainly, thank you, Robin. And Laurent, I'll give the final word to you on your wish for next year.
So my wish will be the acceleration of the regulation in Europe, even if a lot of things has been done. and also to have successful tokenization of financial asset project for this year.
Excellent, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thanks to the audience for the questions and engagement. And I just want to thank Mohamad from BNY Mellon, Laurent from SocGen, and Robin from CIBC. This has been a really interesting panel, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.